And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at a game called Bear Valley. This is game number 2 in the Pocket line from Stronghold Games. Has a lot to live up to, game number 1 being the fantastic Diamonds. This game is also designed by Carl Chuddick, which has a lot of people excited because Carl Chuddick has designed a lot of very in-depth card games, Innovation, and Glory to Rome. But I'll tell you straight up front, this is not like those games at all. In fact, if you had told me to guess who designed this, I never would have guessed Carl Chuddick because it's a very simple push your luck style game. Here's what it is. So in Bear Valley, you're first going to start out by building kind of a river here with these river cards. You'll notice that they're not all being used. You can make the river longer if you want to. And at the beginning is your starting camp, and you are trying to get to the expedition site here, the base camp at the end. And you're going to do that by following paths. Now you'll notice none of the paths are connected, but as time goes by, you're going to be making a honeycomb of cards that are going to connect paths. So perhaps this card would go here. Now you see you can move like this, but then you're still not going to get to where you want to go as time goes by. Now on a player's turn, and each player is going to be one of the different characters in the game, whether Fozzie or Vertigo or Rocky or Sunny or Forest or Violet, which happen to, their name also happens to be their color. So you'll have one of these people, and on your turn, you are going to move. But you move with your finger, not with your character. And that's because if you mess up for some reason or run into a bear, you don't get to move. So if I want to go here, this card, let's say this card's already here, I'd be like 1 o'clock. Now I want to move again, I'll say 2 o'clock. And to do that, I'll flip over the top card. And I can rotate it to one of the 2 different ways to fit this in here. It doesn't matter if paths run into forests, but it does matter if they connect. You need to connect to where you're going through. So this is 2 o'clock. Now this is a mountain, so when you go off of a mountain, you can only go one more stop. But maybe I can stop there, and if I stop there, I'll just move my character there. There's only one character allowed per card, with the exception of cards with bridges on them. But then I could stop, or I might want to go farther, so I'll say 3 o'clock. Now when I turn a card over, and again, I'll say what exit I'm going out, so I'm going out this exit here. Maybe I'll put this one here. Now, since I'm coming off a mountain, I have to stop, but I want to count the exits. Once I get to 3 o'clock, you always count the exits. There's 4 exits on this card. Had I flipped that card when I said 4 o'clock, then I would not have been able to move because there's 4 exits. So maybe, let's say I wasn't coming off a mountain, I'm like, I'm going to keep going. 4 o'clock. Well, this one has 3 exits. So, and this one can't even be placed, so then I don't get to move at all. So in that instance, I'm going to be stuck back here. And there's some other rules in regards to how you can move. Like if you mess up by the time you get to your second one, you can still tunnel through underbrush to get where you are, although that could technically kill you if there's nowhere else to get to. There's always the chance that a card that you flip over is going to have a bear on it, who's going to mess you up. You end your turn unless it's the very first card, in which case you can avoid the bear. And in fact, if you go past 6 o'clock, there's a lot of cards with 6 exits, so you're fine there. But if you go past 6 o'clock and you run into a bear, then you're out of the game. In other words, don't push your luck past 6 o'clock unless you think that will help you win the game. There's other rules that when you end your spot in a place with water, whether it's the river or it might be a lake like this, you have to stop because there's bears around water. I mentioned these bridges earlier. These are the only time when 2 characters can be on the same card. So if you come in this exit, you're leaving that exit. If you come in these 2 or this one, you're going to leave one of the other ones. Sometimes you'll run into a forest card, and this is great. You'll notice there's little rocks here. When you turn over your next card, that's the exit you go out of because you got lost in the forest. I talked about mountains. There's also a lot of advanced things as you're trying to move along the path to get here to the end. There's a bunch of tokens. These tokens are going to show up on certain cards when you put them out. And so, for example, if this card shows up, a gold token is placed on it. There's some wood and gold tokens. And in fact, that's an alternate way to win. Get 3 gold tokens and get back to your starting camp, and you win the game. Also, if you have more gold than somebody else, you can move through that person. Other times, you'll just find a piece of equipment laying on the ground, a flashlight, or a rope, or a machete. Each of these gives you kind of an advantage. Like maybe the canoe lets you move across the river. The flashlight lets you go into a cave and explore from that cave. A picnic basket can be used to basically stop the bear if he's about to get you. There's a trading post where you can trade items for other items. And then each character, you'll notice that Violet has the phrase here, so thirsty, and the bark is worse than the bite. Each character you can play advanced, they have a disadvantage. So for example, Fozzie's afraid of bears, but he also has a bear bonus. Vertigo is afraid of heights, but has a mushroom bonus. So she begins her turn on a mushroom card. For each explore move, that's when you find a new card. After drawing the card, if she doesn't like it, she can put it in the bottom of the deck. So they each have something negative, like Forrest can't go into woods cards, but when he ends on a fox card, he learns what the fox says, and also he can take an extra turn. So you can play with these extra bonuses for the characters, and you can play with all these different items and equipment, and when you use them, they're discarded, but as you find them, you can pick them up and carry them around. So that gives you an alternate victory condition, getting the gold coins and coming back, or you can still get the same victory condition. The first person to get here is the winner. So that's how you play. The base game is very simple, just going to be drawing cards and hoping you don't mess up as you draw them, and also matching paths on the board. Or you can play the advanced game and do the same thing, or try to get the gold. Now, there are some things I did not like about Bear Valley. I did not like the artwork, for example. I thought the people themselves looked like they had escaped from a really bad 3D 90s cartoon. They just didn't look good. The quotes on the card, so thirsty. It's just really weird look. And even the forest looks fine, especially when it's together. It looks good on the table, except those, like a big machete in the middle of it. I don't know, just kind of some jarring graphic design. The game graphically is okay at best. There is the base game and there is the advanced game, and the base game is simply just a push your luck style game. How far do you want to go? And it's a push your luck explore style game. And based on those, I found it enjoyable. It's not very long at all. We're talking 15, 20 minutes. You go through and you get to the end, and it's a very fine game. When you throw in the advanced game, less so. I don't dislike the advanced game, but I just found it this rule book here is a 39-page rule book, which seems like a ton of rule book for such a small game. It really is. But the fact is they did put in 2 full example games. But even with taking those example games out, there's just a lot of little rules for all the different cards. And so you're like, oh, a mushroom card, what does that do? Well, let's look it up. Oh, it only means something if you're the one character who has something to do with mushrooms. Oh, okay. And you move on. And because I found that the advanced game, I thought might have had too high of a rule ratio for what the game gives you. So I prefer, honestly, the basic game. Just move around, forget about the character special ability, which is very odd for me because I usually want that stuff. But here I just wanted, hey, let's move around. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. All right, I'm going to stop now. Or I'm going to go, oh, I turned over a car with 5 exits. I don't move at all. And so that whole exploring aspect and finding the number of exits, I'm not sure thematically what it means, but it works. And there's always the chance of you finding a bear. In fact, I would have preferred if there had been more bears in the deck. So I would have put in a reference card that says what the different areas did, like water, always stop. Mountain, can only move 1 when going off of forest or random. I might have done that. I think that would have been a good addition to the game. And while the advanced game works, if I'm going to play this, I'm going to play just the basic game. And I think people are going to enjoy that. I think some people are going to be thrown off because they're going to be like, Carl Juddick, like I said, doesn't feel like anything he's designed. That's not a negative against the game. It's just a very different style of game. Even his Red 7 game has a very Chuddick feel to it. This one does not. It's just a push your luck style game with abilities and special bonus tokens in the advanced one. I do like the gold, collecting the gold and getting back addition in the advanced. I might play the basic game with just that rule thrown in because it gives you something else to do as you're moving around. So I enjoy Bear Valley. It plays well with the different counts of players. The 6 or down to 3. It was pretty quick in that regard, and just that whole push your luck, push your luck, push your luck worked really well. So, Bear Valley, Dice Tower Judgment, approved the base game.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door! There.